Steve's on the Jeremy Kyle Show. Give him a round of applause.
Shut up, go away.
You put your child in a car and had its legs broken, woman.
Do you want to punch my lights out of me now? Come do it!
It's my show. Part your backside now.
The Jeremy Kyle Show was an extremely popular talk show that began airing here in the UK back in 2005. It would feature couples who were having personal issues in their relationship that they wanted resolved, and host Jeremy Kyle, a former radio presenter, would act as a sort of therapist to try and help them fix their problems.
All these years, all they said, all I want is honesty.
That's the generous interpretation anyway.
Sorry, could you do me a favour in the nicest possible way and go and sit down and shut up until I ask you to speak?
A less favourable assessment might describe it as an act of exploitation designed solely to showcase poorly educated and oftentimes intellectually disabled people and goad them into having mental breakdowns on live television.
You're a liar, mate.
It was sort of Britain's answer to the Jerry Springer Show, but the two hosts had a very different approach.
You're a tea leaf.
Unlike Springer, Kyle was incredibly confrontational.
She should have gone to the police as well, shouldn't she? Yeah, she should have, yeah.
He would frequently yell at and belittle guests and generally treat them like dirt.
I would stand in court and say that you shouldn't be allowed near that kid because I think it's disgusting.
This would usually result in the guests getting angry and lashing out, which obviously is what the producers wanted, and it's why the show was such a smash hit. Now, don't get me wrong, many of the people who came on the show were absolute tossers, and Jeremy's furor was often justified.
Look at her. She doesn't deserve this, mate. Not at all. She doesn't.
But many times it wasn't. Furthermore, no matter how terrible some of the guests were, it's hard to argue that parading them on TV to be laughed at by the entire country was the right course of action, as fairly often it backfired spectacularly. One example was in 2007 when one guest headbutted another. The judge assigned to the assault case partially blamed the producers of the show, saying, "It should not surprise anyone that these people, some of whom have limited intellects, become aggressive with each other. This type of incident is exactly what the producers want." It was of course a highly controversial show that was seriously criticised for its treatment of guests, but despite that it ran for 14 years. Its downfall happened in 2019 after a guest called Steve Diamond was brought on. His fiancée was suspicious that he'd been unfaithful, and he came on the show to take a lie detector test to prove that he hadn't been.
Since the start of your relationship with Jade, have you passionately kissed anyone else? She said no. Why did she say no, Steve?
Because I was telling the truth.
Tess says you're a liar, pal. Just so you're aware, you failed every single question.
Oh my God, I was never unfaithful.
After failing the test, Jeremy proceeded to mock and insult him like he always did.
The audience thought you were telling the truth. I wouldn't trust you with a chocolate button, mate. Honestly, you are. I don't think you even know what the truth is.
Now, this was a pretty unremarkable episode, but what separates it from the rest is what happened after. 7 days later, Steve Diamond was found dead in his home in Hampshire. The cause of death was a morphine overdose, and it was determined to be a suicide. Subsequently, the Jeremy Kyle Show was immediately cancelled, and the Steve Diamond episode was never aired, marking the end of the show. The inquest into Diamond's death heard that he'd been left broken and distraught after filming, partly because Kyle had egged the audience to boo him after he failed the lie detector test.
Yes, I swear
So the serial liar goes into the Jeremy Kyle lie detector and gets called a liar, and my test's wrong, yeah?
It should be noted at this point that these lie detector tests are famously inaccurate, something both Jeremy and the show's producers were well aware of, so it's entirely possible Steve Diamond was actually telling the truth.
And I'm being straight. I'm being so straight. I am being so straight, Jeremy. I've never been more straight than this.
That said, the coroner did not believe the show was responsible for the suicide, stating that Diamond had previously been diagnosed with depression and had attempted to take his life multiple times before appearing on the show. He didn't completely absolve the production, but rather believed it was one of many factors contributing to the suicide. Jeremy Kyle himself said that he didn't believe his actions were humiliating to the guest, rather they were direct but empathetic.
I wouldn't trust you with a chocolate button, mate. I don't think you even know what the truth is.
You've done it.
The producers of the show also stated that they took duty of care very seriously and had offered counselling to Diamond before and after the filming of the show, but psychologist Dr. Charlotte Armitage argued that it wasn't enough, stating no amount of psychological care can mitigate against a format of a production that lends itself to psychological risk. The programme was ultimately cleared of any wrongdoing by the inquest, which concluded there was no clear and reliable causal connection between the filming of the show and Diamond's suicide. Obviously, the damage was already done to the show's reputation though, and the Jeremy Kyle Show remained off air for good.
Who's this?
Anyway, that wraps up the story of the Jeremy Kyle Show, perhaps one of the most controversial programmes ever made.
Read that.
For a decade and a half, it shined a spotlight on desperate, vulnerable people for a cheap laugh, all while its host talked down to them and berated them for the entertainment of a live studio audience. When you really step back and look at it, it seems inevitable that this would eventually lead to tragedy. I'm just surprised it took as long as it did. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. If you enjoyed, please do hit the like button and subscribe to catch any future uploads. Also, check out some of my other videos if you fancy it. Anyway, I hope to see you next time. Peace out.